All right, well, welcome back here in week 5. And the first clip we looked at was editing from chapter 6. And now we're going to be looking at sound in chapter 7. And I tell you what, sound is one of those things that just goes often without notice. If you think editing, is just not really recognized, at least sometimes you see it. Sound, because we don't see it, we take it for granted. We really do. One of my friends is a sound recordist, on-set sound recording, and he often says the only time he hears about his job is when the sound wasn't recorded right. Um, when it's recorded right and it's captured the way it should be, he never gets a pat in the back. Great job. The cameraman might get, hey, cool camera angle. The actor might get, great acting. The sound recordist only hears it when the sound recording is actually bad. So read through the chapter. It'll give you a good overview of sound and how important it is. But I just want to touch on a few things, and I've got some fun clips for you to look at. Sound, I believe George Lucas has been quoted. I'm sure it's misquoted and become urban legend, but he believes that sound is about 90% of a movie. If you don't think it has a massive influence, I encourage you to watch your favorite TV show, your favorite movie for just 4 or 5 minutes, and notice how the lack of sound really disengages you from the production. Um, in fact, you might even hear trains going on in the background here. I kind of live near a railroad track. And we'll get to that in a moment. Is that diegetic sound or non-diegetic sound? We'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, so there's really a couple different levels. There's the recording onset of sound that is happening. Usually it's capturing the dialogue between the actors. A lot of what you see in the final product of a movie has been enhanced in post-production. So there's production sound and then post-production sound. Everything from people's footsteps to airplanes flying by, crowd noises, sirens, dogs barking, all those sort of like ambient sounds often are added in after the fact to enhance it. A good dialogue recording on set, you won't have to hopefully re-record it, though often it is. But a good sound recordist, like my friend Keith, can sit there and move his camera or his microphone on a boom back and forth, capture the audio where it's good, but those microphones are very directional, just to pick up what's right around them, not to pick up background noise. So post-production, you're really going to see a lot added to it. You're going to hear, like I said, in fact, there's a term called Foley work, which actually goes back in and adds all the tapping of feet and the punch noises like you would see in Rocky. All these sort of like natural sounds are enhanced. We also, sometimes these things are all called sound effects too. So you've got sound effects, which could be natural sort of sounds or enhanced what we would consider natural sounds. And then we also have a music soundtrack, which really shapes the way we interact and are emotionally engaged with these sort of movies. Okay, a couple clips I'm going to put up here. One is of the animated film WALL-E. If you haven't seen it, I really enjoy this movie. Pixar came out a couple years ago about a little robot all alone on the big world, and he goes off on a great adventure. Maybe you haven't thought about it, but animated movies have no natural sound. Everything is created for it. I mean, everything from background noises of that's a background noise like wind or something, to the wheels turning on a robot, to him turning his head, him talking. Everything is created. So this little 9-minute clip that you'll watch really does a great job of showing you how all of that is put together and how the director, how the editor, how the sound designer all work together as a team to create sound, and how that sound does convey and can convey emotions. I like at the very end of the clip, the director said, even if the sound is just a tad bit sad, that's what the audience is going to get out of it. And if I don't want them sad, then we need to make sure we get it right because I don't want them sad if they don't need to be sad. I'm elaborating. He says something to that extent. Also, um, sound can manipulate the way we see and hear things. There's such a thing as diegetic and non-diegetic sound. Now, this is a technical term, but diegetic literally means the sound is sourced from the world the film world, if you will, that they're in. So, if somebody is walking down a street and you hear a dog barking, if you don't see that dog, even though it's off screen, if you will, it still would be called diegetic because it's coming from the world that they live in. Or maybe a siren is going off down the street. It's still diegetic because it's from the film world. Now, non-diegetic sound would be something that is outside of this film world. It is, that it would be perhaps a narrator talking about, the story. That person narrating is not in that movie world. It's non-diegetic. It's outside of that film world. Or music oftentimes is that. It is outside of the film world. We don't see a symphony playing as an action hero is running up the stairs, trying to save the woman's life. That would be kind of odd. Though I am going to put a clip up from a Mel Brooks movie called Blazing Saddles, where you see the newly anointed sheriff, he's sitting on a horse with a Gucci bag. If you haven't seen the movie, it's hilarious. It's quite a spoof on westerns. But you see him riding through the desert on his horse. You hear the music, and you think it's non-diegetic sound. It's coming from outside his world. But of course, he rides past the Count Basie big band right in the middle of the desert playing their music. So it's a play on diegetic sound and non-diegetic sound. In that particular case, that orchestra becomes diegetic sound because it's in the film world, but it's definitely a spoof on that idea. And let's see here. I've got one more clip to show you how sound and editing, to a certain degree, can really manipulate the way we see and hear things, the way we feel about them as well. It's a little movie clip spoof on Mary Poppins called Scary Mary, and you'll see how much music can really affect the way that we feel about certain things. So I hope you take time to think about how much sound really helps enhance your movie going experience. One last thing I want to say too is that sound also helps with continuity. As we are cutting from all these different shots back and forth, even if within a certain scene, oftentimes room tone is put in underneath it. That's the sound that's this. Just that kind of hum, picking up some lights, maybe a clock in the background, whatever is natural in that scene, they often will lay down a bed of that so that over the underneath the edits, it sounds continuous. Music often helps with this continuity of time because, like I said, we're not dealing with real time. We're dealing with appeared time. That's not even right. It's late. But we're dealing with manipulating time, and so we want that continuous effect. So sound really helps in that regard. So take a look at some of these clips, read the chapter, and I'll post the assignment here for you too. But hopefully this helps you at least appreciate the wonderful world of sound in cinema. All right, thank you for your time.